Welcome back, everyone. Oz here, and today I've got some r/entitled parents for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading the post, giving you my opinions, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. I don't know why I'm here. Mom still complains we named my daughter after mother-in-law a year and a half later. My mother-in-law is deceased. My husband, the youngest of 5, was very close with his mother. Unfortunately, he's the only one whose children never got to meet her, as she passed away suddenly in his 20s before having kids. When I was pregnant with my daughter 2 years ago, he said he was excited, but sad she'd never got to meet his mom. I suggested we name our daughter after mother-in-law in some way. I like mother-in-law's middle name and suggested we incorporate it. We decided to use it as our daughter's middle name. Our friends, my husband's family, and my extended family all thought it was a sweet gesture. But my mother was furious. Every conversation she would rant about how unfair it was, how I slighted her, how I was favoring my mother-in-law over her, even though I never met mother-in-law. I hadn't learned to set healthy boundaries at that point, so I tried to offer a compromise. We were still in the search of a first name, so we told her to send suggestions. She sent us a list, and the names were not good. Like Priscilla and Blossom, and a bunch of names that followed horribly with my husband's surname. When I told her we wouldn't be using any of the suggestions, she lost it, saying we were disrespectful. My husband was making the baby all about him. We were ruining the experience of her first grandchild. She also said my husband had his pick twice, because we were giving the baby mother-in-law's middle name and my husband's last name. I was still in my doormat phase, so I sent her the list of first names we liked and encouraged her to pick one. She refused, saying none of them were as good as her picks, and none were good enough for her granddaughter. In the end, my husband and I chose a first name from our list along with mother-in-law's middle name. After that, every single conversation with my mother circled back to my daughter's name. She said she was willing to compromise with us and sent us names similar to the ones we had chosen, but prettier. Every time I shut her down, she'd pitch a fit that I was naming my daughter after one grandmother and not the other. I was hormonal and pregnant, and I told her it was ridiculous for her to be so jealous of a dead woman, and that if she kept it up, she wouldn't be seeing my daughter. To this day, she still makes snide comments about it behind my back, according to my dad. We're limited contact with my family now, and I've learned to set firm boundaries, which has brought a lot of peace. I thought of this story because we brought my daughter to my mother-in-law's grave recently. It still annoys me, but there's enough space where I can at least laugh about it now. Hopefully, you can laugh about it too. It honestly says a lot that despite OP being the one to actually recommend incorporating the mother-in-law's name into their daughter's name, that the mother saw this as the husband choosing 2 parts of the name, the last name and the middle name, when in reality one of them was actually OP's suggestion. Also, it's kind of fucking wild that she believes it's a compromise for them to pick one of her variations of the names they chose, and that if they don't, the husband's making the baby all about him, despite her self-insertions into the matter, which, honestly, she has no place in helping to decide that. It's between the wife and the husband. Not all about grandma, who apparently is so gracious enough to be willing to compromise as long as the name was prettier and met her expectations. Lovely. Also, kudos to OP for, while it may have taken some time, eventually being able to stand up for themselves. That definitely takes a lot of work and a lot of growth as a person, and I'm proud of you for pulling that off. Tit for Tat 101. My grandma is surprised that I don't want her attention after ignoring me for most of my life. To give you a little context on the kind of relationship me and my grandmother had. For 20 years, she spelled my name wrong. Every card that was sent that had my name was spelled wrong. On my 21st birthday, she sent me a card that had my name spelled correct. And I, along with my mother, were so shocked that we were wondering if she had actually sent the card. Growing up, my grandma was really close to one of my cousins, I'll call Mike. I just assumed it was because she and Mike lived close, while I only got to see my grandma on holidays or family vacations. So like, once or twice a year. So the moment that made things click for me was when I was around 12 and we were taking a family vacation. I decided to go to a museum specifically for a Native American exhibit, as my grandma says we are Native American. Literally no evidence of that. But once we got to the gift shop, my grandmother had bought herself and Mike matching necklaces. I remember feeling very bad and left out, so I asked her if I could get something to match with her as well, and to summarize what she said, "Oh, well, it's just a thing with Mike and I. We just really bond over our Native American heritage. You don't know much about it, so it wouldn't make sense to buy you something." It was at that moment in my head, I was like, oh, so you're just never going to acknowledge me and my feelings. From then on, I never went out of my way to vie for her attention. Cut to several years later, and I'm an adult, and my grandmother is 79. My aunt had planned an all-girls cruise for our family. The entire time, my grandma kept wanting to join me for things and kept asking about my plans. I found it all very weird because she showed literally no interest in my life prior, and she was shocked when I didn't want to do anything with her one-on-one. I talked to my mom about this, and she was like, "Yep, that's her. Her love goes to the highest bidder." I know now that she's really old, she's worried about the lack of connections she's made with family and doesn't want to die alone. I kind of feel indifferent about the whole thing, sort of like, sucks to suck mentality, which I do feel guilty about because she is my grandma, but relationships are a two-way street, and my grandmother made no effort and seemed to go out of her way to make me feel bad. I'm not going to ignore her, but I'm not going out of my way to placate her because she now suddenly feels guilty, especially if that guilt comes from a place of self-interest. Edit, I just wanted to add some positivity to this mess. I've been building a relationship with my grandmother from my dad's side. The only reason we weren't close is because my parents divorced when I was a baby, and my grandmother lived on the other side of the country, so it was hard for us to communicate and see each other. Now, I talk to her on the regular, and she's super supportive and sweet. She always ends her message with, "I love you, and remember you can always call your grandmother if you need anything." And it's very clear she doesn't have favorites. She loves all of us grandbabies equally, even the ones not related by blood. This is very much a reap what you sow kind of situation. Grandmother didn't pay too much attention to her grandchild while they were growing up, and now they have no interest in maintaining or fostering that relationship. Part of me wonders if there was a selfish reasoning on the grandmother's part where, because it was a male grandchild, there was a higher likelihood that they would continue on the family name, thus the favoritism being attached to it. In my opinion, that also kind of helps explain the quote-unquote Native American heritage that she was so obsessed with. That's just my thought in theory, though. I think that if the grandmother actually wants to spend time with OP and rekindle that relationship, they have to put a lot of effort in. But OP doesn't have to lift a finger. All of the legwork to repair that relationship, or build it for the first time I suppose, is entirely on the grandmother. She had that chance while OP was a child, and decided to exclude them. So, if they want it, they gotta earn it. Lick M. Nut. Karen demands we pay for the iPad her child broke. I work at a bowling alley, and today we had a large tournament, roughly 6 people on all 40 lanes. At the start of the day, it was nice and quiet until about 2 to 3 hours in, the kid who was maybe 10 to 12 that was sat directly in front of the front counter iPad ran out of battery. The kid lost at this point, practically screaming at his mother to charge it or to play on her phone. She clearly didn't care. She basically told him to sit down and shut up. The kid only did half that. He started walking around the counter. Then he noticed the iPad we have behind the counter to keep track of reservations and parties, etc. His face lit up like it was Christmas morning. As I always do when a kid runs behind the counter, I stop them and say, "Whoa, little buddy, can't be back here." The kid then looked up at me, pointed to the iPad and said, "But I want it." "Sorry, little dude, that's our important iPad. I can't let you have it." The kid said, "Oh," and walked away. Me, thinking that was the end of it, went back to tending to lane calls, score corrections, and all the usual stuff that happens when a tournament is going on. Then, maybe about 5 minutes later, I see out of the corner of my eye the kid sneaking around the side of the counter and reaching out to the iPad. Once again, I told him he can't have it, this time with a bit more of a strict tone to tell him I'm serious. With me still looking at him, he reached out more and more until he grabbed it and ran. Luckily, he didn't get far as he tripped over one of the many ball bags strewn across the floor from the bowlers. However, unfortunately, he landed on the tiled-off eating area, smashing the tablet on the ground. Naturally, the kid started bawling. I rush over, grab the iPad off the ground, only for some of the glass to fall out. The mother was none too pleased at this. She looked beet red as she hurried over and shouted, How could you hurt my little pumpkin? I explained to her the situation and how our child tripped and smashed the iPad, and she gave me the stereotypical, "My child is an angel and can do no wrong" speech, and demanded that we pay her for a new iPad for her son. I told her that's not how this works, and she started to cause a scene. The tournament head came over, noticing the commotion, and asked what was going on. Obviously, we both gave our sides of the story. He then said that since the damage happened during his tournament, he would reimburse us for the damaged iPad, but the mother, son, and her bowler were all kicked out and the bowler disqualified. Honestly, I feel bad for the bowler. He was doing pretty good in the tournament, but thanks to a crappy parent, it was all null and void. I talked with the official later, and he said that she's been a problem at the other places before for smaller issues, such as being too rowdy and not watching her kid. Apparently, she was warned at their last tournament that if it happened again, her son would be disqualified from the tournament. I feel bad for him, but oh well. Gotta love it when it's a classic tale of, yeah, my kid can have free reign and won't cause any problems. Then when the child causes problems, no, that can't be the case. They're an angel. No, they would never do that. It's your responsibility to fix what happened here because obviously you're somehow responsible for it. I am a little curious as to what the logic was behind her son breaking the iPad and now it's their responsibility to pay for the iPad that their son stole so he could have the iPad back? Like, I'm a bit bewildered by the concept of the child stealing the iPad, breaking it, and the mother insisting that they're responsible for paying for the iPad for her son. All in all, this entire situation could have just been avoided if it wasn't for the fact that she refused to keep an eye on her child, and my guess would be is this kid gets away with a lot of shit and probably doesn't get told no very often. That might be a bit of an unfair assumption on my end, but I don't know. I just get the vibe from that by this kind of behavior. Okay, Cheesecake 8029. Mother-in-law making my miscarriage about her. I, 25 female, and my fiancé, 25 male, found out we were pregnant in early January. We unfortunately miscarried and found out the baby had no heartbeat on February 26th. For about 2 weeks after that, I was physically going through a miscarriage, which meant bleeding a lot, passing the rest of fetal remains/tissue and mentally being distraught. I cried for a week straight. We lived in a different state from our family, so we were basically going through this alone. As soon as we found out about the miscarriage, my fiancé told my parents and then told his mother. His mother was excited about becoming a grandmother and whatnot. I'm not sure how that phone call went, but presumably it went fine. However, the next day, he was receiving text messages from distant family members sending their condolences or whatnot. Immediately, we all knew she had been telling people. I told my fiancé that he should at least tell his dad, parents are divorced, and siblings before his mom gets to them. Once he called them to tell the news, they already knew. Everybody. This honestly pissed me off. I do not think it's her place to share this news. And also, she never texted me. She never called me to ask how I'm doing or anything. I felt like something so personal that I was experiencing was reduced to basically some sort of gossip. My fiancé texted her, "Why are you telling everybody?" And she just ignored that message. She never tried to call him either. He decided to just ignore her as well because she would text him periodically random stuff like her flight info if she was flying. But again, it was just random stuff. Whatever. Fast forward to a few weeks ago, we decided to just plan our wedding since I've been engaged for 3 years, lol. I sent out our save the dates, which she has not responded to or asked us about. I felt that this would be the perfect opportunity for her to reach out and, I don't know, be a mother? A couple days ago, she FaceTimes my fiancé, but he was working, so I called her back the next day. We thought she was finally going to ask about the wedding or maybe say sorry. Nope, she was just calling because she was on vacation and wanted to show him some stuff. This annoyed my fiancé, and he said, "Oh, I thought you were going to apologize." And she said, "I never saw that message." My fiancé said, "Okay, well, you still told everyone when it wasn't your place to." And she said, "I only told your dad and sister," which was a complete lie, since distant family on her side were texting us. My fiancé hangs up because he can't take the lies. She texts him, "You know what? I'm so sorry that you feel some type of way or some type of victims because I feel the way I feel about losing the excitement in being a grandma. It's unfortunate that you feel the need to punish me for my feelings. These are your choices. I'm not a bad person. Clearly you feel otherwise. That is your opinion. Sorry for not being what you expect on a mother. Ma'am, we kinda are the victims. Does she really think that she's the victim? Like, LOL. Whatever she felt, we felt it 20 times worse. At this point, I really hope she doesn't make it to the wedding because she's just drama. It's incredible how some people are. Edit. She's done so many things that I can go on and on about, but just so you all can get a general idea, she has an identical twin sister that she hasn't spoken to in 3 years because her twin could not take her to the airport one day. Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah, I hope for OP's sake she doesn't make it to the wedding either because she just sounds exhausting and very, very self-centered. It is unbelievably infuriating that she's managed to make honestly what is a horrific loss to go through all about her. And she couldn't even be damned to check in with OP about how she was dealing with the loss and the grief surrounding it, as well as the pain and just general hell that your body has to go through during this. But no. Instead, she went around getting sympathy from as many people as possible and acted like she was the one who experienced the most amount of grief in this scenario. And considering that she's shown little to no interest in actually going to the wedding, at this point in time, I'd honestly just cut her off entirely. I mean, in my opinion, just from her attitude and how she's treating both you and your husband, I'd say revoke the save the date. Because if you're already hoping she doesn't show up to the wedding, just make that the reality. Granted, that is a decision for you and your husband to make, but, considering everything that you've been through, and how little of a damn your mother-in-law actually seems to have, it's a reasonable request, in my opinion. Let me know if I'm letting my own emotions get the best of me here, because I'd be really curious to hear what you all have to say. Brins89. My family disowned me 15 years ago. Complete no contact. Now, all at once, they want back in my life and are stalking me. I finally confronted them. Disclaimer, part of this is from a post on Am I the Asshole that was removed, then added to the events of today. I don't know if this goes here, I just need to get it out. I confronted them today and I can't stop crying or shaking. I don't know why, I don't know what's wrong with me right now. I'm finally calming down a little to get this done. So I, 36 male, got into some trouble 15 years ago. I take all the responsibility for this, and even to this day, I carry all the shame, guilt, and embarrassment for it. Also, this might come up. This is not cultural or religion, it's just shame to the family name. The situation, when I was 19, my ID was stolen and being used in another state and created a situation where my driver's license was suspended nationwide. Somehow, any and all notifications from the other state never made it to me. I started doing all the necessary things I needed to do to try and fix the problem. I, however, had a couple of tickets in my current state that I needed to pay but couldn't because I needed to pay my rent and keep my apartment. Also, at the time, my full-time job was having problems and was borderline shutting down. So, to try and make ends meet, I was doing a lot of freelance work as well. Again, my fault. I knew the company was in trouble, but I was still holding out hope that things would get better. I was hoping that a couple more freelance jobs and I would be able to finally pay the tickets. This was never the case, and the long story short of it is I was arrested and spent 2 weeks in jail. Not ideal, but I guess in the long run, it worked out for the best by clearing the tickets in my home state. However, my family felt otherwise, and I was completely disowned because of this. I lost everything and everyone. The only reason I still had my apartment was because I had enough to cover the rent and the freelance work kept up. It took another 6 months, but I was finally able to get the other state to release my driver's license. I decided that since my family hated me, I didn't need them. So, a year later, I changed my last name, phone number, and email. My social media is locked down so tight, you would think I was hiding national security secrets. I was able to finish college and get settled into my career, and at this point, I'm happier than I have ever been. Enter current time. And 2 weeks ago, there was a knock on my door, and it was my mom and dad. Again, it had been 15 years, and I hadn't spoken to them not one word. The only thing I could get out of my mouth was, "How did you find me and what are you doing here?" My mom's response was, $5,000 to a PI. Finally, a search of your Facebook with just your first name found you, and the PI confirmed it was you. I responded, "You didn't answer my question." "What?" are you doing here? My mom again. It's been 15 years. Look at where you are. It seems you've learned your lesson and you're succeeding. You've missed out on a lot of things. I ended with, yes, I have learned my lesson. One of them is, don't think anyone will ever help you or be understanding, even your family. And yes, I did succeed. And I did it entirely without you. Please leave and never come back. Shut the door in their face. Locked it. Checked the back door and closed all the curtains. I'm guessing they hang around for another 15 minutes knocking, demanding to be let in. I went back to bed, turned the fan on high, and went back to sleep. I did some research, and I have missed out on a lot. I have nieces and nephews, brothers and sisters-in-laws. But the truth is, I don't know any of them, and I don't think I need to. I live a very quiet life. I can count on 2 hands how many friends I actually have. A friend said I may have taken it too far, that I should have given them a chance, and if I don't like what they have to say, then I could have told them to go away. I was hoping that this would be the end of it, but no. They have taken to stalking me. I'll be completely honest, they're harmless, but just a real pain in the ass, and also I've been fucking with them and having some fun with the help of a friend. He now calls them fleas and will check on me, asking if I have fleas or not. It's kind of funny. If I say yes, then it's game on. The first night he came over and we walked downtown to a really expensive restaurant that I knew they were never going to go to. Another night, we went to the porn store. That was the best one. This past week, the way my days off fell, I had a 5-day stretch, so I decided to go to the city for a few days. I'm walking distance to the Amtrak station, and they followed me. I kept my AirPods in the whole time, and I know they were trying to talk to me, but I ignored them the entire time. People on the platform even were telling me that they were talking to me, and I said that I know, but I don't want to deal with them. The train came, and I got on and left them to watch. I loved it. It got to the point I finally had to acknowledge them. They weren't going to go away, so we met at the park across from my apartment. I didn't hold anything back. I told them this was the one and only time I was going to talk to them. I took a page from the Matlock series and told them I was their judge. I was their jury. Thank you, Olympia Lawrence. I then told them that as far as I was concerned, they were guilty of anything and everything, and all I was doing was hearing what they had to say before I walked away from them. I asked them that why now, after 15 years, they are demanding to be back in my life and why they made the decisions they did to disown me. They told me that I ruined the family name, and that the shame I brought to the family was horrible, and that this was the only way to make it right, was to get rid of me. They said that recently my name has been coming up in conversation and that the family has grown with a lot of new people. That brother and sister-in-law are asking questions about who is Brindley. That I have a niece who they think I would love and get along with, and the same for a nephew who was born last year and now should be the time to fix things. They said that looking at my apartment and the life I had, I must have learned my lesson about being a better person and managing my life better. I finally cut them off and told them that I couldn't stand to hear anymore. I was at the point I could hear my heart beating in my ears. I told them that I did everything completely by myself. Nobody from that life exists anymore. Not one person. That they just need to tell everyone the truth. That I was in jail for 2 weeks and because of this, the decision was made to get rid of me. I told them that I did it all on my own and that my one cousin Jean, who is only a cousin by marriage, was the one who was there for me, hence why I took her last name. I told them that to this day, I'm doing everything on my own and rely on nobody and don't need or want them in any way of my life. They made their decisions and I'm making mine. I told them that this will be the last time we talk and that I would be going to see a lawyer to see if there was anything that could be done to keep them away from me, and that if they continue to follow me around or show up at my apartment, I would have them arrested for trespassing. And I went back home and again locked everything down, pulled the curtains, and have been crying since. There are 2 updates to this post, which I will be getting into before giving my opinions. Update: my family disowned me 15 years ago. Complete no contact. Now, all at once, they want back in my life and are stalking me. I finally confronted them. Many of you have been asking for an update. First and foremost, thank you all for your responses. I was overwhelmed. I read every single one. I just couldn't keep up to respond to them. I also worked some extra shifts and had some really nice overtime, which right now comes in handy. Please just know I was not ignoring you. I just couldn't keep up. This isn't the update that many of you were most likely hoping for. I have not heard from my family since I confronted them. I'm hoping that it's all done and over, but at the same time, I'm thinking that they're trying something else. I wanted to address some other things. Many are saying that they're out for money or body parts, that they see I'm successful and such. I can't see this being the case. I truly don't think it's money. If they were able to drop $5,000 for a PI, then I can't see them hurting financially. My dad worked as an ORD for his entire career and made good money. My mom worked for a global corporation as a historical document manager. I didn't ask, but I'm thinking that they might even still be working. Others said that maybe they need body parts. I can't see this being the case either because all of those would have been mentioned the first or last time we talked. People have mentioned they see me successful and want in on it and take the credit, saying that they are responsible for that and how they treated me. I'm successful in my own way. My education is in healthcare management and I work as a unit secretary. I have been here for a while and I truly love my job. I'm at the top of my pay scale and that's okay. I've made a life for myself. Yes, I do have some money stashed away. I live below my means to do what I have done. I'm single, no kids, so it has allowed me to save money. And now, on with the update. This is a long update because it's part of a conversation I had with my cousin. I have not heard from any of them since the last meet where I confronted them. I'm hoping that they are just gone at this point. I truly don't want anything to do with any of them. I don't care that I have nieces or nephews or that I have a new brother and sister-in-laws. I would have to know my sister and brother, my parents, to know all these new people. And frankly, all of them are strangers, and it just brings up a lot of bad emotions. My cousin Jean is the only person who I have anything to do with, and she's been my rock. I can't begin to thank her enough for all she's done. She's been on vacation for a few weeks, so she doesn't know much of what happened. She got back and came over the other night. She showed up with wine, pizza, and cheesecake. God, I love that woman. I opened the door and was greeted with, "The wise woman has arrived and has brought the makings of a great evening." I started crying to her response. However, it looks like I should have arrived a few days ago. She set everything on the counter and just hugged me to get me to calm down. Finally, as she opened the wine and fixed up dinner, I told her everything. At the end, she got a vindictive smile on her face and was like, "We need to talk. It's time for some family secrets to be told." First, she started with telling me that regardless of what the others had said, what happened wasn't my fault. I was stuck in the perfect storm, which just blew up. She told me she saw my folder that had all the work I had done to fix the problem, but it just didn't go fast enough. She reminded me that I didn't kill anyone, I didn't deal drugs or anything like that. I was stuck in a situation that didn't get fixed fast enough. She went on to tell me that it was no surprise that when I did the name change, that I chose the one I did. Come to find out, it was the last name I was born under, which was my grandmother's, my mother's mother, last maiden name. Jean, don't let your parents fool you. They're not the pure pillars of the community that they want you to believe. I've always known that their relationship was not the best, but when I was born, they were split up, and my mom was trying to hide me from my dad. My grandparents didn't like him, so it was decided to give me my grandmother's family name. She was getting more and more pissed off as she spoke. So, let's talk about names since they're so hell-bent of how you shame the family name. Your mother was the one who was born under the influential names. Her mother's family, the name you took, pretty much owned 2 of the local towns in our county. Your grandfather's name owned a few businesses in a different town. Your father's family was never heard of. They were from a different state and moved here for work purposes. Your dad has been writing off your mother's name and connections. Even to this day, your dad's family is pretty much a bunch of unknowns. On top of that, even if your grandparents were alive, they would have been completely behind you and wouldn't have bought into that whole bullshit of shaming the family name. The only time I ever saw her in a mood like this was when I was in college and she introduced herself to the class, she looked square at me and made it clear that she had no favorites. All of this has really made me look at my parents in a different way, and none of it's positive. It just reaffirms what I want even more, which is for them to just go away and never come back. To the small few of you saying this is fake, fanfiction and whatnot, go for it. Apparently, all of you live in perfect worlds with perfect families, and you most likely say the same thing to every post you read. I couldn't give 2 shits, a flying fuck, or a rat's ass what you think. I just need to get this out. Update 2. I don't really know if this counts as an update, so much as it does as maybe just information that I have and was given. First, to answer a common question. Am I going to seek out my siblings and their families? The answer is no, and that my answer is set in stone. And the reason is relatively simple, at least to me. My siblings are 2 and 4 years younger than I am. So when everything happened, they were old enough to understand and know what was happening. I waited for a year and a half before I changed my last name and all my contact information. They could have easily reached out to me, stood up to our parents, and come to my defense, but they did not. So now, all this time later, I just don't feel the need to contact them or reconnect. To be completely honest, they are complete and total strangers, and I really don't see much of a reason to reconnect. People have been asking if I'm okay. The answer is yes. I'm feeling a lot better. This got too much in my head, but I realized that I was way overthinking this. Nothing really changes. I've not heard from any of them. My best friend took me to his lawyer, and I gave him everything and told him everything. He said that since reputation and family name are so important, that a simple cease and desist letter should do the job. That he was sure my family wouldn't want the reputation and story splashed across the local news. I also feel like because of my cousin, I in general feel better about things as well. Hell hath no fury like my cousin Jean pissed off. The other day Jean called and said that we need to take a day and go do something. Get out of town and just forget about everything. I agreed with no thought to it. We always have a great time when we do an outing. I got to her place and immediately went up to the kitchen for coffee to figure out what we were going to do. I got to the kitchen and she had a bunch of papers scattered out doing a bunch of research. I asked what she was working on. Her response, "Your parents pissed me off. All I want to do is go over to their houses and beat the hell out of both of them." She took a drink of her coffee. Let's talk names again. She started to research our lineage and realized some things. She told me that if there was still anything left of our last name, businesses and family money, she was almost 100% certain that I would be the sole heir to anything left if there was anything left. I asked how this was possible. That if anything, it would be her husband's remaining siblings and any children from those survivors. She said it was because of my grandmother that she was one of the originals. For a lack of words, I was born under the last name, and even though my parents changed it later, I changed it back. She said it could be considered along the lines of succession. My grandmother was an original. All I could do was just kind of laugh. It's funny how vested she is in all this. I made the comment, it all sounds good and it would be nice, but that if her one sister-in-law had anything to say about it, she and her family would have taken it all by now. They already got the farm. Jean ended it with, "I would have helped you get what was rightfully yours." I don't think she's completely accurate, but it's a fun thought. I laugh at how vested she is in the situation. I think it makes me that much more grateful to have her in my life. After that, we took off for the rest of the day and went shopping, had lunch, went and had manis and petties done, and had dinner. But I'm good. I think we're good. I truly don't think I'll hear anything from my family. I think once they get the letter, it'll all be done and over. I do real quick want to get a thought I have out of the way before I get into the main kind of feeling I have. So, the first post feels genuine, but the second two kind of feel a little off to me. Like they felt more of like a fan fiction than anything else. But the reason why, and this is my personal theory on this, I think that once their first post took off and it did really well, they wanted to give people updates, and in the process of doing so, they wanted to stretch their creative writing aspects of it by being more flavorful with the text of the story. Not saying they were making the story up as they were going, just more of the fact that they were trying to make the writing more interesting. And in the process, it gave it some interesting vibes that definitely set off a few yellow flags in my eyes. I don't think the story's fake. I just think they made some interesting writing choices for the updates with the lieu of how popular the first post got. That, at least to me, explains why it was written the way that it was written. But in general, I'm glad OP stood their ground. Their family's not entitled to re-enter their life. I think sending a cease and desist is the correct option because yes, if they really do care about their family name and the weight that it holds, then that is definitely the correct option. It will make them back up. In general, for OP, I'd say keep your friends and your actual family close and just continue living your life as you see fit. You don't owe the people who walked out on you anything, and you've done well for yourself this far, so keep it up. And hopefully things continue to go your way. Don't forget, this is brought to you by GamerSupps. Use code ODDS at checkout. It's basically a caffeine powder that you put in your water, and I actually really like it. I use this on a daily basis. Don't forget that every purchase you make using code ODDS directly supports the channel. And if you want a personal recommendation from me, I would either recommend the Soda Pressing Pear or Dragon Fruit Punch. Those two are currently my favorite flavors. And as a note, once we sell a certain amount of stuff, I get my own flavor and my own cup, and you all know I'm gonna choose some degenerate shit that's gonna make their PR team squirm. My goal is to make them regret partnering with me. So please, use code EYES at checkout to make my dream come true of making a PR team squirm.